How did LeBron James get Russell Westbrook to join him on the Los Angeles Lakers? Let's find out. Russell Westbrook is many things as a basketball player. Aggressive, explosive, inefficient, but most of all, he is decisive. A man of action, the saying goes. When there is no path to the basket, he will find one through sheer force of will. So in the summer of 2019, while the rest of the NBA world fretted over who reigning NBA Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard would choose between the Raptors and his hometown LA Lakers or the LA Clippers, Westbrook was coming up with a plan to collaborate him on a homecoming. Westbrook had become a father of 3 the previous November, and while he'd made a home and carved a Hall of Fame legacy in Oklahoma City, the chance to live and play in Los Angeles, where grandparents and his large extended family and friends could visit every day, held deep appeal. Teaming with Leonard would be the fastest way there, so he placed the call according to multiple sources. But Leonard didn't just take the call as one native son of Los Angeles to another, ponder it and file it away. He used it. According to multiple sources, Leonard then called Westbrook's teammate in Oklahoma City, Paul George, and told him he'd rather team up with him on a homecoming.
I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous just because we play the same position.
George had always longed to play in front of his family as well, but had formed a close bond with Westbrook in their 2 seasons together in Oklahoma City and was content to stay. Leonard's call upended all of that though, and within a week, Leonard was teaming up with George, not Westbrook, for their hometown LA Clippers. While Westbrook began a journey that would take him to 3 new teams over the next 2 seasons, each time moving farther from both the NBA championship he'd been chasing his whole career and his hometown of Los Angeles, but he never gave up hope of fulfilling those goals. His longtime agent, Dad Foucher, helped guide him through each of those massive trades, which seemed independent of each other until you consider the previously unknown prologue between Leonard and Westbrook, which began the entire chain of events and now looms as a delicious subplot to all future Lakers-Clippers games. Westbrook's homecoming trade to the Lakers a couple weeks ago wasn't just 2 weeks in the making, it was 2 years in the making. This year, midway through the morning of draft day, Rob Pelinka received a surprising call. It was from the Washington Wizards general manager, Tommy Shepard, and he wanted to discuss a possible Russell Westbrook trade. There had been informal conversations between the teams about such a deal previously, but ultimately the Wizards had preferred to give the pairing of Westbrook and Bradley Beal another season to work after 2020-21 was set back by a COVID-19 outbreak within the team in January. That morning, however, sources indicate that Westbrook and Foucher called the Wizards to say that he was happy to play in Washington another 2 seasons, but if there was a trade with the Lakers that made sense for both franchises, he would welcome the chance to compete for a championship in his own hometown. Westbrook had been in close communication with Beal since the season ended, as both awaited their basketball futures in DC, sources said. They'd enjoyed playing together last season and felt some optimism that a second would be more successful than their opening round playoff exit, but both also had concerns about the ability of the team, as currently constructed, to compete at a high level. There was a key difference in their situations. Beal was 28 years old, squarely in his prime, and loyal to the franchise that had drafted him 3rd overall in 2012, and Westbrook was 32, 4 years older, with likely just a few more seasons to win at the highest level.
100%, and I credit a lot of my success to Russ, because when he's a Hall of Famer, he's an MVP, scoring champ. Like he has it all the accolades. The only thing he's missing is a ring. And so for me, it's seeing how he brings it every single day, as a leader, as a player, as a father, as a man. Like, he is the best teammate probably I've ever had.
Last year in Houston, when James Harden started expressing doubts about his future with the franchise, and Westbrook decided not to sit back and get left behind again, as Foucher and the Rockets worked together to create a trade with Washington. At each stop, Westbrook had left on great teams with his previous franchises, putting out press releases thinking about him and Foucher for his contributions and professionalism. Westbrook wanted to give Beal as much consideration as possible. This was Westbrook's too big of a moment to let it pass. This might be his last and best chance to play in his hometown and compete for a championship. He couldn't take a chance on getting left behind if Beal later asked him to move on from Washington, and he knew this was likely the best return the Wizards would be able to get for him. For weeks, Westbrook had been talking to Lakers star LeBron James about the possibility of playing together, sources said. They'd talk about working out together and how they push each other in the gym and on the court. Both are known around the NBA as insatiable workout guys who pride themselves on the condition they keep their bodies in and how early they get to the gym. There's an oft-told story about Westbrook and Durant in their early years together in Oklahoma City when they'd try to beat each other into the facility each morning, ultimately arriving well before dawn. The team finally had to tell each of them to show up at the same time so the staffers didn't have to get there to meet them. James, of course, often posts his early morning workouts on his social media with a timestamp. Competitively, Westbrook and James seem like a great match, two alphas who thrive off structure, hard work, and discipline. Stylistically though, they'd had to meet to talk through how this might work, so James invited Westbrook and Anthony Davis over to his house in Brentwood for a meeting of their minds. James had played and won championships with aggressive playmakers before. In Miami, it took a season and a half to work through how to mesh his game with Wade, but ultimately they sorted through it and won 2 titles together. That experience helped him in Cleveland when he had to solve how to play with Kyrie Irving. Westbrook can command the forces of opposing defenses like those players, but he has key differences. His career shooting is worse than both Wade and Irving, and he also averages more turnovers than Wade and Irving. But of course, Westbrook is an incredible rebounder and assist generator, and has averaged a triple-double 4 times in the past 5 seasons. Think about that. Wow.
And there it is, history. Russell Westbrook has just surpassed Oscar Robertson. It lasted 47 years, and now Russell Westbrook stands there all alone.
A record that was titled untouchable for 47 years has been broken.
For the Lakers, the stylistic concerns were allayed, at least for a moment, when James and Davis blessed the move. In their end-of-season evaluations, sources said that the Lakers concluded the one thing they'd truly missed from their championship run in 2020, and that was a secondary playmaker for LeBron. Rajon Rondo had elevated his game in the playoffs and provided that skill in several key games in 2020. They'd hoped Dennis Schroeder could do the same, especially if there was an injury to James or Davis, but he struggled in the playoffs and glaringly so after Davis's groin injury, so the team's primary forces in the offseason was to add an elite playmaker, sources said. Free agent point guard Kyle Lowry was a strong consideration, just as he had been at the trade deadline, sources said, and so was Chris Paul. But free agency is always a risk, so other teams could make bigger, better offers than LA, and backup options could vanish quickly as top-tier players weighed their opinions. The Lakers had experienced that 2 summers earlier, waiting for Leonard to make his free agent decision, and LA would also likely be hard-capped if it had acquired a player via a sign-in trade. The Lakers' luxury tax bill is about $100 million, which is an NBA record, and that's a result of Westbrook, Talen Horton-Tucker, Carmelo Anthony, and countless other people they signed this offseason. For Washington, the choice was even simpler. Keeping Beal happy and with the franchise is the top priority. He seems to be looking for reasons to stay, so the best way to do that is build a team around him that he has the best chance to win. One season of Beal and Westbrook had netted a 9th place finish and a first-round playoff exit, so obviously they didn't work out the greatest because they're 2 amazing players, and they really should have made it in the top half of the Eastern Conference standings. The return Washington got for Westbrook was Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Harrell, and the number 22 pick in the draft, which was later flipped to Indiana for Aaron Holiday and the number 31 pick, which gives them 3 solid rotation players and the financial flexibility to make more moves in the future, so they may have a decent future in the next 5 years. It was not a scenario either franchise envisioned heading into Thursday morning, but things evolve rapidly in the NBA, and sometimes bold choices have to be made very quickly. Westbrook has never been afraid to seize moments like these, to attack them like he attacks the rim. He's had the will to play in his hometown for 2 years now, and his first attempt backfired, but this time, he found a way there. And he's with LeBron now too. Well guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Tip Top Sports, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, see you guys next time.